Well, good day everyone, and thank you for coming back to the next video. It's been quite some time since I've done one of these, and I have a lot of information to talk about, and I'm probably going to make this into 2 or 3 videos. But I wanted to remind everybody, you guys, where I left off about a month ago. So 1 month ago, I did these last 2 videos about 2028 and the 7 good years and the 7 bad years, and buried in these 2 videos to me is absolute 100%, in my opinion, confirmation that Daniel's 70th week, the 70th week, that's sometimes called the Tribulation, but I'll call it Daniel's 70th week. Here's a diagram I have here. You guys can download this document, this picture here. And Daniel's 70th week is 7 years, and it's broken up into 2 halves. The first half, which is 1260 days, 3.5 years. The second half is referred to as a time, times and a half a time, or 42 months. And I'm going to get into these details in a little bit. But a lot of people call this, quote, the tribulation, or the Great Tribulation. I would not call it that. And I've done some videos in the past where I've spoken about how Jesus defines the tribulation. And if you go back to some of my videos and you search on tribulation, Jesus defines the tribulation as the first 5 seals in Revelation 6, which I have off to the left here. So there's a 7-year period here. But before that 7-year period, I'm speculating because of Isaiah 32, which I did a video about that, about the 1-year warning, and about a dream from Aaron where she speaks about, the Lord speaks to her, or Uriel speaks about a period of service for the harvesting bride, which I think this 1-year period of service, based upon scripture in Isaiah 32, precedes the 7 years. So a lot of people want to call this 7-year period the tribulation or the Great Tribulation, and I understand that, but based upon the words of Jesus, I don't see that. The tribulation here is Revelation 6, the first 5 seals. And I can show you a document later about that, maybe in another video, but I don't want to get into that here. But what you can see here is based upon these 2 videos, and I have some documents to show for that. Let's see, where are they? Oh, they're right here. So I have the 7 good years. I did a video about this, the 7 good years where these 2 cows were born with a 7 on their forehead, which is not a coincidence. It's a God thing. And looking at the most recent history and these cows were born in the fall on the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, September 25th, 2014. And I think, my opinion is, these 2 cows, which is not a coincidence, born on basically the Jewish New Year, that this is the modern version of Pharaoh's dream that Daniel interpreted for him. So this now in the modern time tells us the 7 good years and the 7 bad years. There's no more speculation as far as I can see. There's nothing to speculate. There's no way this doesn't mean that. It has to mean that. Otherwise, how can you get there with these 2 7s on their foreheads? It just doesn't make any sense other than to interpret it like that. And in the years 2015 and 2016, from what I've read, is the crops in this country were record crops. Wheat, harvest, all of that was just record numbers. And you can tell we're getting ready to fall into the 7 bad years. And there was another document I had where I looked at this same thing using scripture, Psalm 90, and it came out to be the exact 7-year time frame. I'm not going to go over it. You guys can watch this video. So here's another data point that gives us 2021 to 2028. Based upon 1948, the words of Jesus in Psalm 90. And then when you even get down to Daniel 9:27, and you look at the 70 weeks, the 483 years, you come to the same exact conclusion. So the point here for me is that there is no more speculation. The 70th week of Daniel has to be these 7 years. The fall, I speculate the fall of 2021 to the fall of 2028. And in the fall of 2021, the Antichrist will strengthen a covenant here at the beginning. But he doesn't receive absolute total authority of the world to the middle, if you read Daniel 9:27, to the middle of the 7 years, and then he performs the abomination that causes desolation in the spring of 2025, and then he rules, let's see here, Daniel 7 beast rules, Revelation 13, and Daniel 7, if you can see my mouse, the beast rules from Revelation 13, they're the same beast. That's why I got an equal sign right here. They rule for 42 months, or times time and half a time. And then the holy people, according to Daniel 12, they are shattered for that times time and half a time. And then there's the Revelation 12 woman. I'm going to look at some scriptures here to speak about this, because this can be very confusing. It's confusing to decide what happens in the first half of the 7 years and what happens in the second half. So it's my opinion that the two witnesses, Revelation 11 witnesses, they witness for 1260 days. They witness during the time of the 7 years, but they die in the middle. So they are overcome by the beast when he receives his absolute authority of the world in the middle. So during the first 3.5 years, the Antichrist does not have the authority to get rid of the witnesses. But at the middle, he does. And then it would imply that when he gets his absolute authority, that's at the Abomination event, and that begins his 42 months of ruling the world with absolute authority. Okay, and so also when you read Revelation 6, there's two women in there. Now I'm going to look at that right now. Let's go to a document and try to piece this together. Okay, so here's where all the scriptures come from. Daniel 9:27 gives us the overview. It's a 1 week, 7 year period, and it goes like this: and he, the Antichrist, shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, 7 years, and for half of the week he shall put an end. When he gets through half of the week, he shall put an end to the sacrifice and the offering. That would be the abomination. And on the wing of abomination shall come one who makes desolate. Okay, so that's where we get the abomination in the middle of it. But listed below here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 7 scriptures. Revelation 11, Daniel 12. Revelation 11 and Daniel 12 speak about the trampling of the holy city. So Revelation 11 says that the nations will trample for 42 months. Okay? If you look down here at Revelation 13, it says that the beast will exercise authority for 42 months. So I would speculate these Revelation 13:5 and Revelation 11:2, these 42 month designations refer to the latter half of the 7 years. Daniel 12 specifies the same thing, essentially. It says that the shattering of the power of the holy people shall come to an end, and it shall last a time and times and a half time, 3.5 years. But when you get to the witnesses, they prophesy for 1260 days, just as the Revelation 12 first woman is protected in the wilderness for 1260 days. So I see 2 women here protected in the wilderness. The Revelation 12:6 woman is protected for 1260 days, and that 1260 is significant of the same exact time that the witnesses are prophesying. See, the clues are the length of days. Revelation 11 says 1260 days for the witnesses. It doesn't say 42 months like it says up here. It's a difference. So the 42 months and the time and the yellow, everything that's yellow here is the latter half of the 7 years, and everything that's blue is the first half. And you can get to that conclusion by how it's referred to in that 3.5 years. So here, the first half is the witnesses and the Revelation 6 woman before the Antichrist takes absolute control. The latter half has the 42 months and the time and half a time. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, but that's how I see the pattern. And you'll see that Daniel 7 uses the time and half a time. So if we go back to my document, you can see that there is correlation between Daniel let's see here, where is it? Yeah, Daniel 12:7 refers to this shattering of the people with a times, time, and half a time. And Daniel 7:25 says, he, this is the beast, shall be speaking words against the Most High for a times, time, and half a time. So that's the rationale for why I put it in this order where I have these folks. Now, I happen to think that there is a rapture in the middle of this 7 years when these two witnesses are killed and they are raptured up. My thought is this Revelation 6 woman goes with them. That way she doesn't continue to spend more time. And there's another group, another people who become followers of Jesus at the midpoint after the abomination. And I think that might be the Jews. So to me, how I see this is at the beginning of this 7 years, we've already had all of the raptures of the first fruit Christians back over here during the period of service for the bride. And then the left behind Christians, or the non-believing Christians, become believers when they see the Antichrist take over. And then they're ushered into the wilderness. So all the first fruits Christians are gone throughout the course of this year. It's still pretty bad during this year. I mean, you have Revelation 6, 7, and 8. You got the trumpet judgments and everything. But when you start this covenant here at the beginning of the 7 years, you'll have people that will come to understand who the Antichrist is, and they will become Christians. And they will be protected in the wilderness for the first half. But there will be lots of Jews in this first section here, first half of this, quote, 7 years. And then they will be believing in the Antichrist. And then when the Antichrist comes into the temple that they allow the Jews will start to sacrifice in this first 3.5 years. And they will be given the authority to do that. And the Antichrist will just be hanging out on the side, knowing that at the middle of this, he's going to stroll in here and commit the abomination in the middle. And when he commits the abomination, the Jews are going to flee, who once thought he was a good guy, and they're going to flee into the wilderness. So now we have this, quote, woman, the second woman, who happens to be, I'm saying that they're Jews. I guess there could be Christians in there, but they're Jews who thought the Antichrist was good. Now they have to go run and flee into the wilderness. And then they're protected in the wilderness for a times, time, and half a time. So that's why in the book of Revelation, we have this woman referred to twice, right here. Revelation 6, I call it the tribulation saints of the first half. Most likely, people who become Christians. And the Revelation 12:14 woman, they're formerly Jews, and then they recognize who Jesus is halfway through. Okay. So where am I now? Okay, so I'm just going to go over this I think now. I'm going to do another video where I'm going to speak about a lot of other things, guys. Much cooler things. I'm going to speak about this year of service. So let me just go ahead and jump into this year of service and explain where that comes from. So if you go to Aaron, Sparrow's cloud, she had a dream, one of her dreams. She's documented all her dreams. And Uriel tells Aaron, for one time in 10 days, you will be in the service of the Lord for his purposes. And he says this is a good time to study Genesis 6, 7, and 8. And Peter makes a reference to this. Look at the time of the flood, the ark, and the shutting of the door. So this whole thing with the flood lasted 1 year and 10 days, one time in 10 days. Okay? And so that period of service is when the bride is going to be harvesting. Jesus speaks about that in many parables. For the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. So that's why on here I have this 1 year and 10-day harvest period before this, which is coming up. I think it might be in the spring of this year. It might start on the 17th day of the second month and culminate on the 27th day of the second month. And during that time, we'll have Revelation 6, 7, and 8. Because remember, the witnesses do not begin to witness for 1,260 days until Revelation 11. And in Revelation 13, that's when the Antichrist takes over for 42 months. So that's why I look at this as being outside, this 1 year being outside of this 7 years. Okay, let me just jump to one quick thing. Guys, I'm going to ask you guys for some help here. One of the orphanages that I've showcased here a couple times, it's in Uganda, Save an African Child. They are in desperate need, and I'll show you a quick letter from Rachel that she sent me. But it speaks about in James chapter 1, verse 27, he says, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and keep oneself unstained from the world. So the only pure religion, as far as God's concerned, it's not Christianity, it's not Judaism, it's not all those other Eastern religions. The religion that is pure is helping out orphans and widows and keeping oneself unstained. So I have a quick video. I'm just going to show you just a couple seconds.
Hi, my name is Rachel Adamus, and I'm head of support and publicity for Save an African Child.
So I've talked about this before, but I just got an email from her where they are desperate for some donations. She says, Brother Tim, all of my contacts in Uganda are in a complete panic. The government has issued a mandated shutdown of everything on Friday, just like it is here. None of my contacts are prepared and stocked up with food. Please request donations on your next video and prayerfully ask folks for a donation. So there's 3 groups she's speaking about. There's a lot of little kids over there that need some money, guys. And so right here, here's a PayPal link. If you guys can go to, I know many people have gone to this before and helped out. Just in the past 2 days, we have almost $400 of givings, of donations from a few people. So guys, if you can go to this link, or you can go to a blog, I'll give you this. If you go to the blog for Save an African Child, I'll send the link for this. You can take action, and you can give with a credit card a couple different ways. So guys, I would implore you to prayerfully consider helping out these kids. Here they are right there. So guys, with that, I'm going to jump off here, and I'm going to do another video in a little bit, and I'm going to speak about the harvest. So I spoke about this 70th week. I'm sorry, this 9-year period. But I'm going to get into the harvest in the beginning of the days of Noah. So if I were just to give you a little bit of information, remember that Jesus said this. He says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. In Luke 17, just as it was in the days, literal days of Noah, so also it will be in the days of the Son of Man. Luke 17 is one of the raptures. There's more than one rapture. I know people don't see that, but there is, because Scripture speaks about all these different events. So, let me just quickly whet your palate here with this. So, what I'm going to show in my next video is what happens in the very beginning of this 1 year, and it's all the information is all based on patterns. I'm not just speculating because this is what I think it's going to be. I'm just going to say the pattern the Lord used in this part of the Bible may be and probably will be the pattern He's going to use to gather up His first fruits. And you can see here I have it's a first and second harvest pattern in Scripture. So I'm going to discuss the patterns and then review a couple dreams that these little boys had to put together a picture, to paint a picture of how this is all going to play out. So guys, I'm going to stop here for a minute, drink down some water. My voice is, I'm starting to lose it, and we will surely see what the Lord has in store for us. Talk to you soon. God bless you.